We're now joined by Mlungisi Nkosi of the Maths and Science Centre. He joins us now via our video link. Mlungisi, thank you so much for your time this evening here in SABC News. Now, as we mark International Day of Mathematics, the theme this year being mathematics, art and creativity. Why is it so important for us to reflect on this day?
Good evening, Bali, and good evening to your viewers at home. And thank you so much for having me. I think it is important to observe this day, first of all, because we realize, just like your story actually just alluded right now, that we're seeing a decline in the number of learners that are taking up mathematics, that are completing matric with mathematics, as part of their subjects. And so, I mean, any country that means to do well by any stroke or margin, needs to make sure that it invests quite deliberately in ensuring that we improve in mathematical skills and mathematical literacy in the country. So I think it is important for us to highlight, to make a fuss about mathematics and to ensure that we ignite that sense of interest. And secondly, we also ensure that we make mathematics relatable, that it's not really as monstrous a subject that many believe that it is. So I think it is important to observe such a day like that.
And how concerning is this, particularly when you look at the fact that, there is some sort of decline here when it comes to those who show an interest in mathematics? Where are we going wrong, in schools to ensure that, it still becomes a subject that many young people can relate to and would want to continue to pursue?
Firstly, Mali, I think we must not delude ourselves as a country. There's a history behind the reason why we are where we are in terms of our mathematical skills and competence, right? The fact that, for the longest time, historically, people of color, black people were not allowed, in a sense, to do mathematics. And so as a result, we're now having to play catch up. If you think about right now, the interventions that were actually mentioned in your link right now is that we need to firstly start with the teaching of mathematics. We need to ensure that we equip teachers adequately. Because remember, you are talking about people whose legacy does not include mathematics, right? And so as a result, now they're beginning only to get involved in, mathematics and so on. And what we now need to do is ensure that we equip the teaching of mathematics as much as possible. We actually equip teachers with the ability to do mathematics, to teach mathematics the right way. But secondly, I think it's important to also present and package mathematics in such a way that, firstly, it becomes relatable, but it also becomes a fun and exciting subject. So I think it's all of those challenges that we are looking at. If you think about what the UN has put as a goal, one of the sustainable development goals is that we must have access to quality education. But if you think about it, with the legacy of the past, there's still a long way to go in ensuring that goal is realized.
And where are we really on the global spectrum when it comes to, adequate training for mathematics teachers in South Africa?
Yeah, sure. Just to give a brief highlight. So we participate in a global study called TIMS, right? And unfortunately, when we look globally, I think firstly, I must commend our government for participating in that study, because it shows that they are committed to ensuring that we as a country actually are as best as possible, knowledgeable about what's happening globally, right? But when we look at it, our country actually came in last. If you think about the fact that the TIMS report is conducted around 400 countries, that participate in it, and South Africa came in last. So it tells you exactly where we are in terms of our mathematical competence. But I think there's still, I remember when I participated in one speaking engagement the other time, one professor said that, you see, the thing about education is that it's measured in decades, right? And I really do think that we are beginning to turn the tide. There's a level of interest that we are sparking. Yes, I understand that at the moment we're seeing a decline in the number of learners that are taking up mathematics, but I'm seeing quite an excitement amongst educators. I'm seeing quite an excitement around, government in actually ensuring that they level up in, equipping both learners as well as educators with the requisite skills in mathematics. So for me, I think that we will turn the tide. People like myself are doing the best that we can in ensuring, I've got a YouTube channel that I have, and a lot of educators are using that resource. So for me, I truly believe that, decades down the line, we probably will begin to see the tide turning.
Growing up, there was always the stigma around mathematics, and that, it's a difficult subject, and, only the ones with, the brains can really tackle a subject of that magnitude. What role does stigma and, of course, intimidation play when it comes to children taking up a subject like mathematics?
Yeah, I think that's such an important question. You say growing up, actually, it still is happening even now. I think for me, the most important thing is what happens at home, right? Because that's really where it begins. How we talk about mathematics at home, how we, our cadence when it comes to mathematics. And it's so important that we watch how or what we say and how we actually package mathematics even from the home. Yesterday I did a speaking engagement in one of the schools in Soweto to promote mathematics amongst learners in grade 8. We conducted this, and we realized that there's this fear. But when you realize, those kids are quite young. If you really interrogate where this fear comes from, it comes from the fact that they've already been told that mathematics is difficult, that not everyone can do mathematics. And I actually beg to differ, because everyone does mathematics in some level or the other, right? So if you think about it, I made examples around baking. In fact, as I was making the example, I wasn't looking for an answer, but the learners themselves ended up giving me an answer, because I made an example with baking cakes, right? You use measurements to bake, right? That's ratio and proportion. I made an example, and I said, look, if, say for an example, I was baking 6 muffins, and it required me to use 3 eggs, right? And they actually told me, if I wanted to bake 12 muffins, how many eggs would I have to make?
All right.
And so for me, it's using models like those that really sparks an interest in mathematics.
All right, Mlungisi, thank you so much for that conversation. That is Mlungisi Nkosi, who is from the Maths and Science Center. They're just talking to us as we commemorate International Day of Mathematics, highlighting that there is maths in everything that we do.